Hello, everybody. Today I'm just going to talk a bit about voicings and stacking intervals to create voicings or create stack chords. Now, every chord is a stack of something. If it's a stack of seconds, you call it a cluster. Cluster. Stack of thirds, it's whatever it is you want to call it. But a lot of people don't know that you can, well, a lot of people know but don't use stacks of fourths to create voicings. And sometimes you can use fifths in different ways to create different voicings. Now, I'm going to show a few examples of that. Now, stacks of fourths, first you gotta know what a fourth is. C to F would be an example of a fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half steps. But you probably already know that. Now, if you go up another fourth, perfect fourth from F, you get to B flat. Put those together, you have a chord built entirely of fourths. This specific chord would be a C7 sus4, because you're playing the the notes necessary for the C7, the root, and the flat 7. But instead of playing the tritone in a normal C7, you have a sus4. Still a C7. It's still a C7, but you're playing the fourth instead of the third, making it a sus chord. Of course, we're omitting the fifth because we don't really need the fifth to create the function. Now, that could mean a lot of things. This could be, this in the way that it is now, the form that it is now, we have root, fourth, and the seventh. But if we were to play a different note in the bass, now that's a different chord. You have a G, C, F, and B flat. This is a G7, root, and the flat 7. You also have the sharp 9 present, so it's a G7, sharp 9, sus4. So that's a G7, sharp 9, sus4. The reason why I don't call it a G9 is because the 9 is altered. You have to say it in a different way. Because this is the G9 sus4. The sharp 9 is required to make it a chord built entirely of fourths. Now, as you can hear, there's a very open sound. When people want to open up their chords, this is what they usually do. So if you could play in the bass, and since we don't have the fifth, you just put the root and the fifth in the bass. It's a much wider sound, much more open sound than this, all in one spot. Now, that's just one example of a chord using fourths as a voice to voice it. Now, one of my favorite things to do right now is to use fifths. Now, a lot of people use fifths in the bass. I use fifths everywhere because of reasons. Don't worry about it. Now, the reason why I use fifths is because in classical theory, we're trained to avoid parallel fifths. So even though I'm not actually playing parallel fifths, I kind of use fifths out of spite, sort of. Don't judge me. But in a C major 7th chord, you have root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. I use the 3rd and the 7th in the left hand, and the 9 and the 13 in the right hand. So the voicing would sound like, that would be my C13. Now, if I'm playing and there's a bass player, he's playing, say we're in D flat, I'm playing That's the sound of the C13. Another thing I like to do is playing 13 chords on the dominant seventh. Tritone, 9/13, or either way, 9/13, tritone. Either way, it's the same chord. Now, you can create all sorts of voicings by moving one note one way or the other. This is strange because instead of using the note closest to the left or bottom of the stack of thirds as given its numerical value, they go from right to left. So a drop one voicing, for instance, you're taking the top note and putting it on the bottom. Or a drop two, you're taking the fifth that would be your voicing for a drop two. Drop three, 1, 2, 3, drop three, and so on and so on. You drop 2 and 4, 3 and whatever. That's how that one works. Now another thing you can do is the same thing with altered chords. Taking one or two of the notes out and putting them in a different register. Say if I take these two out, the third and the sharp and the sorry, the third and this flat 7. If I take those out and put them on the bottom, I get a more open voicing. Now you can do this with any chord, anywhere, at any time, as long as it fits musically. That's the key thing. Now, another common voicing that we use, simple voicing in darn near every song. Perfect fifth or power chord in the left hand and an add 9 chord in the right hand. All right. Now, getting into actually playing with these things, there's an exercise that you can do to get your fingers to move appropriately when playing an add 9 chord or altered chord. Now, what you're doing in the left hand, you're playing the triad. In the right hand, you're playing but the important thing is your fingers don't leave the keys. In every key. Stay relaxed when you're doing it. You don't want any tension. It should be effortless when you do it. That way, when you're playing these real pretty gospel ballads, get your fingers to move a little bit faster. When you're playing the passing chords. Because if you're playing a passing chord and you get stuck, it throws off the entire vibe. The service gets weird, and everybody starts looking at the musicians, trying to figure out what's going on. It's because the musician didn't practice, and it's a whole other thing. Sometimes the other singers don't practice, but that's not the point. Everyone is responsible for the time. This is a life lesson for all musicians. Every musician, every person involved with the music is responsible for time. If you don't have a good sense of time, then you need to get one. Do that. Get a metronome, set it to 60, and tap it so that it's correct. If you don't have a metronome, get a watch. Don't have a watch, you have worse problems. You probably should go get a watch. But that's not the point. Practice, work on your time. And when you're playing these things, change the rhythm. Don't always do 1, 2, 3. Make it triplets. Do 16th notes if you can. Do 8th notes. Do whatever rhythm you find most difficult. Do that. Do the hard stuff first. And the hard stuff is the easy stuff. Let me tell you, the hard stuff is the easy stuff. Your scale, your major scale, 1 octave. If you can't do that without thinking, or if you have to put effort, if you play this 100 times and you can't play it another 100 times because you're sore or your wrist hurts or your back hurts, the problem is you have bad technique. You have bad technique. It should be effortless. You should not be trying hard to play your voicings. It should not be a struggle to play. You already know the chords. You just have to make sure that your body knows them. A lot of people say that gospel musicians learn by ear and classical musicians learn by sight. This is not true. Both musicians learn via muscle memory. We just have different connections to our muscle memory. With classical musicians, it's via sight. They see things, their body remembers what the object that they're viewing means, and then they're able to reproduce the sound that they have associated with the sight. If they see middle C, they see it, their body remembers it, and they play the middle C. For gospel musicians, our connection is auditory. We hear the pitch, our body remembers what it feels like to play that pitch, and then we play the pitch. It's that simple. We both use muscle memory. If we're learning to read, we're doing it in a different way. If we're learning to use our ears, we're learning to do it in a different way. We're learning the same mechanical thing. Because if you hear middle C and a classical musician sees a middle C, you're going to play the same key, middle C. This is really just the thing between the two styles, is that we're learning to do the same thing differently. We're doing the same thing, we're just learning it differently. I went on a bit of a rant that had nothing to do with voicings, really, but I just felt like I needed to say it. All right, thank you. This is long, 14 minutes already. Well, I thank you for your patience. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. Tell me what you think. Do you think that I'm right in saying that gospel musicians learn via muscle memory, or do you think there actually is a learning by ear technically? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you. Goodbye.